5, Chapter 231. It was properly noticed and has been posted and certified by the clerk. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hopatcong.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Schindler.
Here.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Young.
Here.
Mayor Francis.
Here. So please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Estelle Klein, a councilwoman in town for many years, and also John Scala, who recently passed, who was, by the way, our male senior of the year. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We don't have any proclamations, and I'll start with committee reports. Dawn, go ahead, you start.
Okay. For me, over at the community center, everything is status quo. No changes there. We're doing very well. We have the same guidelines in place that we had at our last meeting, so I won't reiterate that unless someone wants me to. I do have Councilman Smith's committee report. For Chamber of Commerce, wants everyone to know that the job fair is tomorrow, July 16th. It's from 10 to 11. It's a Zoom virtual meeting. You will need to sign up ahead of time by emailing mail@sussexcountychamber.org. The sign up is $100 for members and $200 for non-members. So that's tomorrow, mail@sussexcountychamber.org. Sussex County Day has been scheduled for September 20th. The theme will be Community Heroes. This year's Expo 2020 has been rescheduled to October 29th. So mark your calendars for that. From the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, document shredding will be July 17th. So that would be Friday. And the e-waste event, so I imagine technology, computers, things like that, that event will be July 25th. And all of these times and dates are available on the Hopatcong website. Thank you.
Okay, Brad, you're up.
Hey, Mayor, the latest update since our last meeting is that currently in Hopatcong, we had 134 cases of the COVID-19, and during the pandemic, we're up to now in Sussex County with 1,277 cases, and just wanted to remind everybody to continue doing what they're doing as far as social distancing. At our last council meeting, I acknowledged our honorees as the Hopatcong Seniors of the Year, Lola and John Scala, and as the mayor just mentioned, we lost John Scala last Sunday at the age of 84. John will be remembered as a longtime resident since 1964, actually, an avid sports fan and a big joke teller. But our sincere condolences go out to his family. Just for everybody's information, at a meeting of the Lake Hopatcong Commission last Monday, the weed harvesters owned by the state will be out of service for at least 6 months, during which the investigation to determine the cause of the recent tragedy resulting in the death of Operator Curtis Mulch is determined. The commission, however, has left open the door the possibility to contract out to a private firm weed harvesting for the remainder of the year. That is under just a possibility. On a brighter note, on Saturday, August the 1st at 10 a.m. at the Bandshell located in Maxim Glen Park, located at the corner of Lakeside Boulevard and Hopatcong Road, we will have a short ceremony to honor our military and to unveil our Hopatcong Hometown Hero Banners program. Following the ceremony, we will head over to view all the banners that will be displayed on Hopatcong Road. In order to adhere to the social distancing requirements in place at that time, Please feel free to bring your lawn chairs for the official ceremony. This will be a rain or shine event, and all are welcome. That's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you. Rich, you're up.
Okay, as always, I just want to thank the EMS, fire, and police officers for their work on the front lines and dealing with the public. Thank you. Otherwise, please get out and support your businesses, local businesses, and also the restaurants. They're still having a hard time. Get out and support them. And that's all I have.
Thank you. John Young?
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a few things from Recreation, Environmental, and Open Space reported last meeting, and OEM hasn't met in a while. First of all, some upcoming events from Recreation this Friday, July 17th, shortly before dark we'll start, but at Vets Field, the softball section, we have our first outdoor movie night in quite a while. The movie will be The Abominable Snowman. On August 1st, which is a Saturday, we have scheduled at Maxim Glen at the gazebo a short concert. The first group is the Hopatcong Bombastics, which is a combination of some Hopatcong High School band members and some band alumni members. That will be followed by another band known as Black Tie Groove. They will play, the Bombastic will play from 1 to 1:45, and Black Tie Groove will play from 2 to 2:45. And the Rec Commission will be there with some ice cream. On August 7th, we have our second movie night again at Vets Softball Field. The movie is Sonic Hedgehog. And then that's a Friday as well. And then Saturday, August 8th, we have our, this time, summer egg hunt. And we've broken it into groups from 10 to 10:30 will be 0 to 2 years old. 11 to 11:30 will be 3 to 4. 12 to 12:30 will be 5 to 6 year olds. And 1 to 1:30 will be 7 and 8. And we'll be practicing social distancing at all of these events, and that's of course why we've changed the times or have different times for different age groups on the egg hunt. We also had some discussion regarding we're seeking and have already gotten some refunds from some of the prepaid fees that we had to make for summer camp and some of the trips, some of the registration down payments that you have to make. We've already got some of those back. We're looking to get more. Also, there will be no rec basketball for this winter because right now I don't think the school is going to be opening their facilities to any external usage other than school usage. And there will also be no fall street hockey program. Both of those have been canceled. So that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, you're up.
Hi, everyone. So this Superintendent Art DiBenedetto had a single issue meeting last Wednesday. The YouTube is available. If you go to hopatconschools.org, you can access it. It's right under the banner. It's like one of the first things under the banner about the back to school plan. I could get into it, but it's very intricate, and it sounds to me like, he worked really hard on this. For scouting, PAC 88 had a very successful flag ceremony. They will come out to your home and place 12 flags out on your yard. And now for $40 a year, you will get 7 flags. 7 times a year, you'll get 12 flags just put on your home. They will deliver them, they will put them in, and then they will come back a couple days later and remove them. If anybody is interested in that, the email address to contact them is pac88fundraising@gmail.com. And that is $40 a year, and it goes directly to the PAC to help the PAC with their activities and the community service they give back to the community in general. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you. Ron, let's do the administrative report. At the end of the report, Ron, would you put the video on of the flyover so in case anybody had any questions about it?
Sure, absolutely, Mayor. Thank you. to support all the council members that have said would ask everyone to help local restaurants and stuff of that nature. I just wanted to comment that we had a new restaurant open up, Lola's, that is on Lakeside Avenue. And what public I've heard come in has said they've really enjoyed it. The outdoor seating, it was very nice. The food is good. And you can come by boat if you like. And they were very well pleased to see that. So kudos to them for getting open, and just want to spread that message out that they're open and ready for business. Next thing I want to do, we've got our list of paved roads that we're looked at, all locked in stone, but right now our final draft, if you will, of the roads that the borough is funded to pave, coming from our Street Scape scan, which is the mechanism that went out and scientifically measured all our roads for defects and rated those from worst to best. This is where this list comes from. And the DPW staff wanted to spread the wealth, if you will, because there's roads in every part of the borough that needs paving. So we tried to hit a couple of the not be in one spot. So just a quick list on the Heights side, we're going to do Jenkins Street, Milton Avenue, and Center Street, Flora Ave, all center, Henry Street and Florist Street. On Elbow, we're going to do Kissling Avenue. In Northwood, we're doing Squaw Trail and Laurel Trail. In the Hills, we're doing Rawlins Trail, Larson's Trail, Leland Trail, and Iowa Trail. Right now, that is the brief version of that, so that the Finance Committee knows we are still under the budgeted amount that we have in capital. We stayed below the capital amount on these roads right here to give us some contingencies if we have things down further in the year that we have to take care of. But these are the roads right now that we're predicting to start paving somewhere around July 28th or 29th is the anticipated start. With that, Mayor, that's all I got.
Thank you.
And to the flyways we go.
Ron, you have to share your screen.
I thought I was. Oh, here we go. How's that?
Good.
Here we go.
And so what you're saying is a flyover we did on Monday of the current status of our solar installation. Today, I was up there today too. They've installed more panels. You'll see the blank spots. We'll have installed 4,000 panels. Each panel is about 385 watts a piece. We'll probably have, what you're seeing now is probably 1.5 megawatts. Each panel measures about 7 to 8 inches by 39 inches and weighs about 50 pounds to give you some idea of the mass that we're putting up. These are high efficiency panels. They have a 90% efficiency rate guaranteed for 10 years and an 80% efficiency rate guaranteed for 25 years. So these are high quality panels. Each panel is a monocrystalline silicone type panel, and each one of the panels has 144 cells on it. And so these panels cost about $250 a piece. So just in panels, you're probably looking at about $1 million just for the material. And so that's why this project is going to be close to $4 million when all is said and done. So that gives you some idea what's going on up there. I think it's a major step forward. I don't see the background. In the background, you see 5 power poles. The last pole is going to be the transfer pole to the grid that's managed by JCP&L. But and I'll try to show them better. But the poles are all set and ready to go. So this week and next week, they'll be starting to put in the conduit that wires all these things together. So we're making really good progress there. We hope to be online probably sometimes end of August, which, you know, Lord willing, the creek don't rise, nothing goes wrong, and we get all the supplies that we need. So we're being pretty aggressive with this. as we move forward. This is a major step forward for the town. And the flyer will give you some idea of the total look of it. I try to take pictures from the ground, and I just can't do it justice. But when you look at this, you'll see exactly how extensive this is. And this is what's considered a relatively small site at 1.5 megawatts, but this is just the beginning of what we're doing. And we own the rest of the acreage there. And so we had to manage it separately because this is actually the cap of the landfill. And the cap of the landfill has a different set of rules and regulations that we have to follow. The rest of the property that you see right there in the back, that's all borough-owned property. And so we'll address that after we're up and running with the first piece of the project. So that's an update on the solar. I did that now in case anybody has any questions on it. So thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. Okay.
You see a high school in the background there.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting to public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp. Mr. Hoppercamp.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Schindler.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
And of course, comments are limited to one comment for no more than 5 minutes. So welcome, public.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody in the public that would like to make a comment, please hit your reaction button, show me a hand so I can get you in line and get you on. Thank you. Heather, you're on.
Heather Fiore, Windsor Avenue. I just wanted to know if that list that you read off was going to be available because you read it too fast that I couldn't actually retain any of that. For the paving?
Say that again?
I said, is the paving list that you read off, is that going to be available online?
As soon as we finalize it.
Okay. And is the report available that robot or whatever you call it completed that prioritizes? Is that report done and available?
It's done on our electronic system. It's the whole borough's been mapped. So this was a priority.
Yeah,
of
no,
worst
I
to
understand.
best.
Yeah, no, I understand how it works. I'm asking if there's a report that's available.
Not per se. I mean, we can run reports, but we didn't run a specific one. We just prioritized bad.
Ron, we'll answer the questions after the comment.
Okay.
We will address it.
Okay.
That's it.
Ron, did you see you had two more?
Ron, you're muted.
Michelle, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have the copy in front of me of the Hopatcong news, and it covers the topics that you've covered on the solar panel venture, and I know the mayor likes to say we, but I don't think it's really we. It's a private venture that's taking place, and the maximum revenue that our town will receive from it, according to the journal here, is that it would be only like $50,000 a year. Okay, so who is we? There's always this ambiguous terms of we. The other thing that is very interesting in the Hopatcong news was the article that they did about delayed harvesting and phosphorus and concerns for Fragile Lake. And we have here the environmentalists that were hired with the DEP talking about the high phosphorus rate in Creston Cove. And that basically says that it's a problem. It says still the warning in 2017 report echoes the areas of the lake that experience water quality problems were associated with elevated concentration of phosphorus. A substantial portion of the phosphorus in these areas of the lake originate from watershed stormwater to stormwater, septic systems, etc. So we have here Hudson Road, which has septic systems that are very close to Creston Cove. So they're a phosphorus contributor, okay? And we have not made, as a municipality, have not made any grants, our own municipality grants or monies to give to environmental issues. But yet, we had the authority. We have our own, we also have our own Hopatcong Environmental Commission. Other municipalities do not have that. And we are one of the 2 towns, municipalities that do not have, that don't have city sewer around the lake shore. Okay, Jefferson, which is in another county, and our town, which is Hopatcong. But anyway, we have offered, our municipality has offered a 5-year tax abatement for new lakefront developments. That was something that our municipality had the power and authorization to do. So they were more concerned over new development, okay, with hookups, than they were for existing environmental issues. And yet we finger point the DEP when we have the power. We have the power to write our own grants out of our tax revenue. And the biggest stakeholders to Hopatcong and stakeholders to Hopatcong is the residential taxpayer. And I don't see where our municipality has done anything and a grant structure like they've done for the new development. New concentrated development, mind you, with asphalt, using asphalt driveways with runoff. And the governor has offered us to do this on stormwater management, but we called that a rain tax. And we said, no, we were going to handle our own stormwater management operations. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to see where you are proactive environmentally, being that we have our own Hopatcong Environmental Commission, and we have the power to structure our own grants out of our own tax dollars, because you tax these people who have lake associations. I can tell you that. We get taxed for fees for a swing set.
Your 5 minutes is up, Michelle. Wrap it up. More public?
Yes, hold on, Mike. Trying to get unmuted. Here we go. Mara, you're on?
Yes. Actually, it has to do with what Michelle just said. We for the last 2 years, we've been having problems between the HAB and the weed. And we all know that we really need the lake economically, for recreation, for tourism, and everything else. So I'm wondering if now we would be thinking about passing an ordinance that required environmental impact statements for all of the construction that's being done near the lake before we give them variances. Because we've been seem to be letting up on the requirements. And the new development does have runoff going down the right of way into the lake. So Michelle was right about that. And I'd like to know if we're thinking about doing that to require environmental impact statements. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, I don't see any more hands.
Yes, you do.
Okay, where are we at?
Jerry Gruenfelder.
Okay, Jerry, go.
I live at 313 Idleroy Trail in Hopatcong. I'd like to find out how I can get more information on the paper or the document shredding event, and I want to know how robust that is because I plan to bring my marriage certificate down there for shredding. So I mean that's a question. The second question I have is a bit more serious. And no, my wife is not at home right now, so I think I'll get away with that one. There's been a lot of stuff going around about the COVID-19 epidemic, and some of the research that I've done indicates that the health insurance companies are refusing claims. So what I would do, it's not really a question, it's more of a suggestion. I would suggest that perhaps the borough talk to whomever the provider is of health insurance to see if on renewal there are going to be any exclusions in the coverage due to potential COVID-19 claims. Next question is, when will the 2019 audit be available? And is the 2019 assessed valuation, has that been done? Is that ready yet? And the last question that I have, again, goes back to the audit. The best number that I've been able to come up with for the cost of the audit for the borough is approximately $25,000. The Board of Education just awarded a contract for their audit for $55,000. And so my question is, why the significant difference in light of the fact that they're both pretty much the same? As a matter of fact, I would think that the municipal audit is more complex and more time consuming than the Board of Education audit. And those are my questions.
Thank you.
William, you're up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've missed the last couple of meetings, so I apologize if this has been covered or will be covered. My question relates to the Hudson Avenue sewer extension. I'm in the position of needing a new septic, but clearly I wouldn't want to put that in if sewer is coming down the road. So it is just wondering if there's an update.
Moron?
Michael, I don't see any, but let's go through one more time. I don't see any more, Mayor.
I'll entertain
Move
a
to bring
motion.
it back.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Here. Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
All right, now, as best I can, briefly, I'll try to respond. The paving report that we have, that preliminary, would and should be published when we finalize everything. That's so people can really know, and we do have a letter that goes to every resident on every affected road, letting them know that in fact we'll be paving, take your car off the road, whatever will help us do it most efficiently. So that hopefully will get done when we have everything nailed down. In relationship to our solar installation, I say we. And the reason I say we is because in this case, the Borough of Hopatcong is the landlord. Of course, we totally support this effort for obvious reasons of alternative energy, of lessening our carbon footprint, of having some conscientious efforts to help our environment be a little bit better. So I say we in the vein that we absolutely support this type of effort and will continue to do so. This is approximately a $4 million project, like I said before. So it's no small things. The rent is based as publicized. It's $15,500 a year per megawatt installed. We're starting with 1.5, and hopefully we can do more. But we'll get to 1.5 or 1.5 to 2 done first. So hopefully that dispels any questions of inaccuracies on our landfill. The lake problem we addressed directly. If anybody has been paying attention at all, they know my passion for our lake. I am sometimes a lone voice, sometimes the only voice that will ask the state to be a better steward of our lake. There will be stores on Hudson Avenue as soon as the bonding is done. That's a red tape issue that drives me nuts, of course, but we're close to fruition on that. And in answer to William's question, we hope to be digging by fall. Maybe before, but we should be digging by fall. I could stand corrected by our engineer, but he's not online. So I understand that it's a matter of paperwork now for us to get going on it. That takes 40 lakefront septic systems offline. This effort was initiated by the town, wasn't initiated by the state. There happened to be a program where we get 50% loan forgiveness. All the expenses for this sewer are paid for by the people who hook up. There is an assessment to pay for the capital value, and of course there's a hookup fee and quarterly fees that maintain it. So let's be clear that we are paying attention. This governing body, this environmental commission, by the way, our environmental commission is one of the better ones that I've seen, that addresses all the issues. We can't do them, unfortunately, all at one time. In reference to any development, the both major developments that have happened by our lake are in sewer areas. The developers have accrued and paid for all the costs of the sewer installations. So that was not on the back of the taxpayers. So I just want to be clear with accurate information when we move into this. And if there's ever any questions, feel free to call me. I will help you understand it. But we always put the taxpayer first, and we're careful with the taxpayer's money first. So in reference to the solar, we're not gambling with your money. We're a landlord. There is absolutely no risk. As a matter of fact, we have about a $2 or $3 million bond that protects us should everybody go belly up and we have a hill full of collectors that we have to take down. Hope that never happens, but it's covered. In relationship to the have and the weeds, if anybody else has been paying attention, we are currently installing a $125,000 aeration project in Creston, Cove specifically, that came through a grant to the Borough of Hopatcong directly, because the Borough of Hopatcong was the only one that supports this methodology to date, and we applied and got a grant to do it. To date, we've installed 20,000 feet, linear feet of airline. We're about 5,000 feet short. That should be in end of this week, early next week. By the end of next week, we hope to have bubbles in the water. We're currently digging the footing and assembling the shelter for the compressor that's right next to the well house by the bridge. So hope that helped people understand. some of the stuff that we're doing, addressing the environmental issues of the lake. The weed and the weed harvesting are something that's been managed or mismanaged, if you will, by the DEP. The Lake Commission tries the very best they can. I sit in at the meetings, which is easier now with Zoom, and they're trying to address the issue. They're limited by funding, and they're also limited by the bureaucrats in Trenton, who quite frankly don't have the best interest of our lake at heart. That's the mayor's opinion, by the way. And I'm not afraid to say that publicly because it's true. So I hope I've helped everyone understand where we're going, a little bit of how we got there, and where we intend to get. I'm working now to reintroduce the proposition to put triploid grass carp in River Styx Cove. You can Google it. I don't want to go into great detail about it, but if you Google it, it's a sterile fish that eats weeds and lives 5 to 7 years and dies. And so that could be one more tool in the toolbox of managing our weeds. So there's a lot of stuff going on that, in its early stages, I don't want to get people either too discouraged or too encouraged, but this requires a lot of work dealing with Trenton. I'm not afraid to do that. We'll continue to do that. I've got a good team that works with me. Brad Haverkamp is now on the Lake Commission. I want to congratulate him on that appointment. And so we are paying attention. We really, truly are. It's just something I don't know. Please let me know. We will address it. I am not shy to start talking to anybody and everybody about our lake to a point where I might bore you to death. There's a lot of details that we have to pay attention to, and we are. And our goal is to make our lake clean again, like it used to be. And we can't do that overnight. I don't expect to. It took 20 or 30 years of mismanagement to get here, and it's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years to get it back on track. So that hopefully I responded to everybody's questions satisfactorily.
Mayor, Mr. Gruenfeld asked about the status of the assessments. Just to try and answer his questions, if that's okay, Mayor.
Yeah, sure. Good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Gerald. I was reading so fast I missed you.
So the tax assessor puts in her proposed assessments January 1st. Normally by this time of year, by the end of June, the tax appeals are over and the assessment gets set. But of course, that's been significantly delayed this year because of coronavirus. So there's a schedule that I believe goes either to the end of August or the beginning of September. And the final assessment for the borough will be set later.
Thank you, John. All right. Approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on July 1st, 2020.
So made.
Second.
Questions, corrections? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-101, approval of the bills list. I'll entertain a motion on the bills list.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone need anything pulled out or discussed? Not hearing any, Mayor. I will move the bill list in its entirety.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So
made.
moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinances, introduction of ordinance 22-2020, an ordinance to appropriate $35,000 from the Municipal Open Space Recreation Trust for the purpose of recreational improvements.
I'll move it.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Final hearing, Valerie, what date?
August the 5th.
August 5th, okay. Ordinance final hearing, ordinance 16-2020, auction of 334 Knox Way, block 40204, lot 37. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the borough and not required for public purposes, and more commonly known as 334 Knox Way, block 40204, lot 37.
So move it.
Second.
Are there any public questions or comments? Hearing none?
I don't see any, Mayor.
Move to bring it back.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Ordinance 17-2020, auction of 15 Alexandria Avenue, block 70109, lot 9. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the borough and not required for public purposes, and more commonly known as 15 Alexandria Avenue, block 70109, lot 9.
So moved.
Second.
Open it to the public for questions or comments.
I see none, Mayor.
Okay. Hearing
Move
none.
to bring, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Want to bring it back?
Move to bring it back.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Ordinance 19-2020, auction of 31 Adams Trail, block 40217, lot 4. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the borough and not required for public purposes, and more commonly known as 31 Adams Trail, block 40217, lot 4.
I'll move it, but we do need to go back to 18-2020.
Fuck no.
Okay, so I'll second the Adams Trail.
I'll open that to the public for comments. Hearing none?
See
Move
none,
to bring,
Mayor.
Yes.
Don't see any.
Okay. Bring it
move to
back.
bring it back.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call the roll.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
What are the auction dates on these? I didn't write it down.
They are also the first meeting in August, so that's the 5th.
So they would be August 5th, okay. Ordinance 20-2020.
Mike, why don't you do
Gotta
18?
go back to 18.
Go to 18 so we don't miss it. 18, 20, 20.
Oh, we got to call the roll on that?
No, we didn't do it,
You didn't even
Mayor.
read it.
We didn't read it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm reading two pieces of paper at one time and also writing, and I do not multitask well. I'm sorry. Ordinance 18-2020, auction of 18 Bucknell Trail, block 30802, lot 9. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the borough and not required for public purposes, and more commonly known as 18 Bucknell Trail, block 30802, lot 9.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I'll entertain public questions or comments. Hearing none?
See none, Michael.
I'll move to bring it back.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call the roll,
Aye.
please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2020 auction of 108 Madison Trail, block 40415, lot 27. An ordinance of the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorized the sale of certain property owned by the borough and not required for public purposes, and more commonly known as 108 Madison Trail, block 40415, lot 27.
So moved.
Second.
I'll entertain questions or comments by the public. Hearing
Seeing
none.
none, Mayor?
Move to bring it back.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020, partially vacating Riggs Lane right-of-way. Ordinance partially vacating Riggs Lane right-of-way in the Borough of Hopatcong, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey.
So move it.
Second.
I'll open that to the public.
Mr. Mayor, this is Steve McNally. May I speak?
Yep.
I have filed a letter outlining the objections of a group of neighbors to that Riggs Lane right-of-way, to the ordinance that vacates that section of the right-of-way that is proposed. That letter outlines that in the first instance, notice of the ordinance was really insufficient to give the full group of neighbors who were adversely affected by the vacation notice of the enactment of the ordinance. Notice was given exclusively to one neighbor. The proponent of this ordinance is really 8 Oneida, and the notice was given to the Tomlinsons at 10 Oneida. But none of the other parties who have deeded rights to access to Riggs Lane or who use Riggs Lane for access to Lake Hopatcong were given notice. And the letter that we submitted had sign-offs by 13 individuals, 8 different properties owned by neighbors who oppose the enactment of the ordinance. So there is a significant group just in those people who managed to obtain knowledge of the pendency of the ordinance in opposition to it without notice being properly served. So I would think that at a minimum, the town should consider looking into really who is impacted by this ordinance and making sure that service of that notice is appropriately upon everyone who is adversely affected. And number 2, on behalf of those 13 individuals and 8 property owners who signed off on the letter that was filed, it's clear that there is a severe adverse impact upon those homeowners' right of access to Riggs Lane and to Lake Hopatcong by this vacation of the ordinance. I know, because it was pointed out to me by counsel for the town, that the vacation of Riggs Lane is only partial. Riggs Lane has a 35-foot width, and the proposed vacation is 8 feet only of that width, and it is for purposes of apparently a septic installation that the owner of 8 Oneida wants to install. However, Riggs Lane, even though it is 35 feet wide in the aggregate, is a very topographically difficult right-of-way, and that 8 feet contains stairs and the part of that right-of-way that is truly used by the people for access. So I don't think that that the topography was considered when the partial vacation was recommended. So we would ask that this ordinance be tabled because we don't think it's been properly considered. And certainly there are alternatives to vacation of the right-of-way that might serve the interests of 8 Oneida without adversely affecting the rights of access of the rest of the community. That's all.
Thank you. John, you want to respond to that?
Sure, Mayor. I have spoken or at least communicated with Mr. McNally through email I disagree with Mr. McNally with respect to notice. The notice is sufficient for this ordinance. There's no further issue there. Mr. McNally is making the argument that anybody who uses rigs is adversely affected, but I think that's well beyond the meaning of the statute as far as adversely affected. This is a situation where rigs is 35 feet wide. Rigs is going to maintain its 35-foot width for the vast majority of the right-of-way. There's a very small triangular piece where it will be reduced to 24 feet wide. And that isn't blocked by anything. It's grading off a 1-foot encroachment from a septic system. And at the bottom, for a short area, it is being reduced by 8 feet to 27 feet. So I would say that the real estate committee has looked at this. There were multiple proposals from the landowner, and the direction that was taken by the real estate committee in making this recommendation was to have the absolute minimum vacated area in order to accommodate it's not actually the house, because the house is fully on 8 Oneida's property, but because of the rock and where the septic is, they're both built close to the property line. The septic system actually encroaches by 1 foot, but there's a need for lines to pump the septic up from the house to the septic system. So I think the real estate committee took the position that they were going to vacate the absolute minimum required to accommodate the proposed development. And I think the final thing that Mr. McNally pointed out, that there were stairs on rigs, but any stairs on rigs, unless they have been approved by the governing body in the past, I'm not aware of that, they would not be legal. No one is permitted to build a structure in a municipal right-of-way. And so I don't think the stairs are a big factor. Mr. McNally has sent us some documents. We're reviewing them. There's questions about who has access to the lake at this point in that area. There's questions about a beach. There's questions about a dock. And the fact that these neighbors have raised this issue, and Mr. McNally has provided us some documents, we're going to have a full review of this. We've ordered a complete title search, and we will look into who it is that has rights, what those rights are, and then how we deal with any access issues, and particularly the dock at the end of rigs. There's a number of questions regarding that dock, and those questions can really only be answered by a complete title search. We have 2 of the deeds, and the deeds, they're really not helpful in answering this question. The deeds appear to vest some access rights in Echo Cove Association, which was revoked decades ago. So it's not clear to us who would have these rights, but because they're raised, and we want to make sure that if the neighbors have rights, we want to protect them. We're going to do a complete title search, and I'll have a report back to the council.
So just to be clear, Mr. Urson, I want to make sure that we're correct here. What you're saying is that passing this, and I agree with you, does not encroach on anybody's easement. I've been to that location 4 times in the last week. There are no stairs. There are some steps that have been put into the ground, but quite frankly, you're better off not using them. So my question is, and my opinion is as well, is that passing this does not impede anybody's rights to access to Lakefront, and doesn't present any further issues, so we should move on this now.
That was a question, John.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the recommendation of the real estate committee, and based upon what I've seen, I see no reason that you can't move on this. So it's the council's prerogative and the recommendation of the real estate committee.
I have a question then. I think if there's a title search happening, I feel like it should be tabled until that title search and the rights and who belongs to those rights should be clear before we pass an ordinance vacating a partial right of way for anybody.
So let me pipe in on this, Jen. My opinion when I was looking at this is that we can still do the search and get a list of people who have a right to use that. But the real question here, specifically for this partial vacating, is it going to impede those rights for those people?
It's not
no
going
matter
to.
who they are. It could be 100 people, it could be one person. And looking at that 8 feet at the max, I decided it wasn't. They can still have plenty of room to get around. They have plenty of room to get to the beach. And we can still find out who it is and then accordingly, protect them moving forward if something else is going to come up. But
and my viewpoint on that, I've been down there twice since Sunday. I went down there Sunday. There were markers marked out, and both of them both times I went, the markers were marked in 2 different spots. At one point on Sunday, the 11 feet was marked out in the middle of the walkway. And if the steps that are there, the makeshift steps that are there. And if you were to come out 11 feet there, you really don't have enough room on the other side to access, because you're either climbing over a 5-foot ledge, or you're squeezing in between the ledge and where the vacation begins. So you're squeezing down there on a relative, I'm not going to say it's steep, but it's not conducive to some of the older people or people who are not as mobile coming down Riggs Lane. Then when I went yesterday, the markers were actually moved over, and the 8 feet was next to the steps and the 11 feet was out in the middle down those steps closer to the water. So I think that unless we get a really clear picture of where those stakes are going to really be and where that partial vacation is really going to be, I don't think that a decision could be made to vacate in good faith to vacate this partial right of way. Have the homeowners build a septic and then say, oh wait, sorry, you have to rip all of this up because this doesn't belong to you, or we came out too far, or whatever it is. These people don't have access to ingress and egress their deeded beachfront property. So that I don't think that an adequate decision. I don't have enough information.
Mayor, we have other public would like to weigh in as well, sir.
Okay.
Thomas, you're in.
Yes, Thomas Hatton. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. My mom sent out a letter this morning, which I think many of you received. I'm a former resident. I'm also a former member of the Hopatcong Environmental Commission. This came up for review along with a lot of other paper roads in the 1980s and 90s. It was immediately dropped because there were deed restrictions which mentioned a full width of 35 feet between the 2 lots as full deeded access. Not a portion of it, but full 35 feet. Also the area where the stairs were, that area is restrictive and steep slope and critical grade on the other side. You wouldn't send a billy goat up it, much less a senior citizen, okay? And what I'm trying to figure out is why this is necessary for these people. We already gave them a section of Oneida Avenue, which my mom was not made aware of. There's limitations that are now placed on her access and the town's access for that property as a vacation that took place for Oneida Avenue. Certainly she did not get a notice. Having been on the Environmental Commission, I'm aware of notice requirements. And what I can't figure out is why is all the bending over backwards to accommodate people who bought a lot knowing what the restrictions were in the first place. That beach area, that storage area, it's been used by the community members and the deeded members who, when they originally bought their properties, that access, not part of it, but all of it was baked into the cake. And as for the dock, maybe my great-grandmother bought some of those properties originally from Lilly and Maxim in 1906. There's many public accesses in Hopatcong that did have docks. And the reason the docks exist is because they didn't have roads. And so the way that people got to their properties that were not on the lake access was they were dropped off at these public docks that the town had on similar accesses within Feuerstein's, Rosie Lane. There's another one in Wildwood Shores, and there's several of these, one at the end of Lakeside Boulevard, where the Aguilars used to live. But these are public accesses that had docks for accesses prior to roads. So that's the history on how the docks got there. But I certainly disagree that with council's assessment that this is something that's needed for these people. It's not needed at all. They don't have a house yet. They bought property, got a great deal on it, which I don't criticize them for that. But the town already gave them a section of Oneida Avenue. And at what point does this mayor and council represent the people who have served the community? My dad was on several committees, dispute resolution. He was part of getting the landfill moved to the county. I worked a lot with other people on getting the lake cleaned up. I lived in Echo Cove. That thing is a bowl of spinach right now. And we're, I'm very sad about this because my family has been there for almost 120 years. And what is going on here, beyond the legal issues, is just wrong, taking away people's deeded rights to this property. Why would we give it to somebody who doesn't have a deeded right to it over somebody who does have a deeded right to it? If you want to do rateables for the town, clean up the lake and the home values will skyrocket. And you'll get all the rateables you want. I don't think we need to increase our rateables by letting these people build a bigger house. I've already connected them with Joe Gates and 2 septic engineers that will make their entire plan work. It's not necessary, and on top of that, it's not right.
All right, Mike, we have other public.
Okay, John, would you respond to the issue of deeded rights, and if in fact if that beach area is deeded to someone, and the relationship between deeded rights, ingress, egress, could you clarify that for us?
Sure. So the deeds that we've been provided indicate that there is a right that is possibly been granted through deeds to a 35-foot width beach. Who those rights have been granted to is unclear. That's part of the reason we're doing the title search. The 35 feet refers to the beach width, not the access width. So that's an issue. And the deeds that we've been provided, again, indicate that these rights are held by the Echo Cove Association that hasn't existed in, I don't know, I can tell you exactly when. The Echo Lake Cove Association was revoked in 1972. So, and look, I think the issue is 2 separate things. If there are people who have rights to the beach and the dock, then we're going to find that out with precision, and we're going to honor them and protect them. The issue that the council is dealing with now is the access issue. Nothing has been given to us to even suggest that anybody has a 35-foot wide access. That would be extraordinary. In Hopatcong, I've read a lot of these access agreements for docks and beaches and common property by filed maps. And, these arrangements just aren't unusual in the way that Hopatcong developed. But I've genuinely never seen a 35-foot access granted or promised. The 35 feet refers to the beach at the end of the street.
It just doesn't.
I have a question for you, Mr. Urson. If these docks that are on borough property were originally put there for people to access this property and other properties. How is it that we have 2 boats moored on this dock? And I challenge anyone to come up and moor a 3rd boat.
Yeah, so Mr. Young, again, I think we're really dealing with 2 different issues. So this issue with the property at 8 Oneida is before the council today for a vote. Some of the council people have raised the question about some uncertainty. The uncertainty doesn't relate to the property you're vacating. The uncertainty relates to who built the dock, who maintains it, who has access to it, what specifically any deed that is going to reference it says about that, and we'll find all that out. And again, so I don't have an answer to you, Mr. Young, but I can tell you that the efforts to get to the bottom of the dock issue, they're underway already.
Thank you.
This is obviously, because we're discussing this and because a number of the neighbors are concerned, it obviously highlighted this and caused us to take the next step, and we're going to. And then it'll be straightened out, and whatever the rights are, we'll ensure that they're protected.
Mr. Hatton, you're still up?
Yes. I want to clarify one thing. My mother's deed precedes the Echo Cove Association, and it specifically mentions 35 feet between 2 lots. It doesn't say part of the lots, it doesn't say part of the 35 feet, and it doesn't mention the beach. So it's not about the beach, it's not about the dock. That's kind of a red herring issue here. The issue is about vacating Riggs Lane and giving it to an adjacent homeowner who doesn't even have a house to express a hardship issue. The hardship issue is created by a selective design on a house that hasn't even been built yet. There is no hardship issue here. So I don't know why we're going down this road and saying there is. That space down there is one of the few places in Hopatcong where people have enjoyed for years. There's been no problems. It's been a harmonious area. And having been on committees in Hopatcong, and particularly my dad in the Dispute Resolution Committee, things like this churned endlessly because there was no proper processes and procedures that prevented things like this happening. So my point is, go back and read my mom's deed. Her deed precedes the Echo Cove, and it's specific to that area. And there are a lot of unique deeds in Hopatcong because when we were vacating properties, they all had weird strings attached to them. And this happens to be one of them, but it exists. And I want you to table this until we can do a full review and examine all the deeds and not say things that aren't true to mislead people. I think that's what's going on here, and it's not one bit right.
Mr. Hatton, Councilman Schindler, a question for you. In your mother's letter and stuff and deed, it was also said that she was paying someone $35 a year for that, right? You're muted. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
The letter that my mother wrote did not say that anybody was paid $35 per year. In the deed, what happened was, there was collections that were made. So when the dock was made, and Howie Carl, who was the chief of police, is the person who actually put in the dock. Took out the original dock is still there. Part of it, it's now sideways in the entrance platform to the dock that was put in by Howie Carl in about 1970. And it was also repaired once again. And what the people had decided was, instead of having $35 sitting in somebody's envelope someplace, that they would recount money, that they would recollect the money and make up the difference when the need appeared. Now, if we have to litigate this, all those back dues would be paid rather quickly, I would think.
More public, Ron?
Yes, hold on. Mara, you're on.
Hi. Basically, I think it should be tabled because the borough council and the mayor work for the people. And if the people have objections that they don't feel are addressed, then aren't you avoiding your duty to the residents to thoroughly research this and have answers for everybody so that everybody's on the same page? And could Mr. Urson please explain adverse possession? Thank you.
John, I have a quick question, if that's okay. The title search, does that include the 27 feet or the whole 35 feet?
No, the title search would be, so the title search is driven by the property and what's been recorded on the property. And what makes the title search when you're dealing with these situations a little bit more difficult is this very likely goes back to a time when filed maps granted rights. And so there's some references to filed maps here. So a title searcher knows how to track back through the history of the property, but it's going to be a search on the property with a focus on the end of Riggs Lane. And we'll see what comes up as far as who has a right and interest, an easement, an access agreement, whatever it is.
Would that include the beach and the dock?
It'll be focused on that, yeah.
Focused on that. Thank you.
Mike, we have more public.
All right, let's go.
Hi.
Brenda, you're on.
Brenda Berhenny, I am Robert Rossi's daughter of 27 Kissling Avenue. Thank you for hearing us today. And I just wanted to comment on something that John Urson had said. Two things. One, there's also a deed. Hold on, sorry, there's feedback. I'm with Mrs. Hatton, my bad. Okay, so there's a deed from 1923, I believe it was, about having the 150-foot access from where Riggs and Oneida meet all the way down to the water as well. So that's a piece that may show up in the title report that you're running. And then Echo Cove Association was actually incorporated in 1972. February 25th, 1972, I actually have the paperwork at our house. So if you need that, we have it. And it was incorporated as a 501c3. So I just wanted to make those comments to make everyone aware of those points.
Oh, Mayor, I have the state of New Jersey report on Echo Cove in front of me, and let me clarify. It was filed in 1972. That's correct, and it was revoked in 1988. I didn't see that earlier, but I'm holding the report from the state that was run yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
So there is no Echo Cove Association.
Well, I mean, look, that's corporate charters get revoked from time to time. I'm sure it could be reinstated. That information isn't clear from here, but probably it brings up an issue that someone would have a hard time speaking for Echo Cove right now. But I don't think that's really germane to our discussion. Somebody can fix that
right
at any time.
Heather, you're on.
Heather Fear, Windsor Avenue. Failure to file that you're a business doesn't vacate their ability to be an association. We actually have this happen all the time with small communities. And I'm talking about residential communities, but it's the same concept for all associations. It doesn't forego your right to be an association or still exist. If the rights are there, just because you don't file every year, you get penalized. It might cost you a few $100 to re-up your business title, but it doesn't mean that you give up your rights to be able to do that, to have that association.
Well, public, Ron?
I had the Tomlinsons raise their hand. I'm trying to unmute them. There we go. The Tomlinsons. Yes.
Yes, I would like a copy of the topographical land analysis that was done, if one was done, to show that my home at 10 Oneida Avenue is not going to be impacted by any of the building or anything that's going to be unearthed.
Where'd she go?
Yeah, Mayor, maybe I could just point out to Miss or Mrs. Tomlinson that that analysis is actually done at the Land Use Board when someone applies for approvals to build something there.
Okay.
I need to get a copy of that. Would you send me a copy?
Well, it hasn't been filed with the town yet because they haven't applied to build the house there yet.
Okay, but that would guarantee that my home will not be impacted by flooding. The home is over 100 years old.
All right. Miss Hatton, you're on. You got to unmute, dear.
Getting back to the Echo Cove
There you go.
Association, like many things that this town does, homeowners never get letters as to what you people are doing. My husband and I were never informed that the Echo Cove Association had been eradicated. Also, I never got a letter from the town about vacating Oneida Avenue. And this really upsets me when letters are supposed to go out for any change in anything. And now here you do that and we never get letters saying that you've done this. The vacating Oneida Avenue, and I don't understand why. Because it is used by my neighbors. It was used by me many, many times over the 50-something years I've lived in this house. And it's really very upsetting that letters are never going out. Yes, letters do go out when somebody wants to remodel their home. But for other things, we are never notified what is going on. And I would, for other things, for the rest of us who live in Hopatcong, that letters would be written to the surrounding neighbors of things that you are eliminating or vacating. Thank you.
John, did we notify correctly?
Yes, yes, Mayor. And just for Mrs. Hatton's information, the issue on the Echo Cove Association, that's action by the state, not by the borough. That is really the borough has nothing to do with corporate regulation. So and yes, Mayor, we've to my knowledge, at each turn we have noticed properly.
So the Hattons, Miss Hatton, even though her property is within that vacation, a certain feet of that vacation, of a partial vacation of rigs, she's in a certain amount of feet from that vacation. The corner of her property is less than 200 feet from that partial vacation. You're telling me that Mrs. Hatton received a letter?
I'm telling you that Mrs. Hatton didn't receive a letter because that's not the test for vacating roads.
Okay. But then why did you notify Tomlinson then?
So the Tomlinsons are 10, they're across Riggs. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so if the property were touching rigs in the area that we were vacating, then we would determine whether or not we thought it was adversely affected, and we would decide whether to send notice.
Have you been down to Riggs Lane? Because Tomlinson's property does not touch the partial vacation of Riggs Lane.
Yeah,
It touches Riggs Lane itself, but so does Mrs. Tomlinson's property. I mean, sorry, Mrs. Hatton's property.
Yeah, so perhaps we were over noticing.
But why one and not the other, I think is that question that they're asking.
So unlike a land use application where there's a defined area, there's a subjective standard with respect to adversely affected, okay? And the determination was made that because it wasn't a complete vacation, that they were not adversely affected.
Okay. So what I hear Mrs. Hatton saying is that her ingress and egress is adversely affected by this partial vacation of Riggs Lane. That's what I'm hearing her say, or her son say. Sorry. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to.
I serve on many standards committees, including several ASTM committees. I have never heard of a subjective standard. I believe it probably exists in Hopatcong. So could you provide that definition to me? Because my mom did not get a letter and she is affected. So how does Hopatcong define a subjective standard?
If that's a real question.
No, it is, because I serve on many ASTM committees. I serve on ARS committees. I'm on the Interstate Technology Committee, and all these things are about standards, and all the definitions that we have, I've not encountered that one. So I want to find out what, and I don't know if it's part of an ordinance or it's listed somewhere, but how does it seems to be, it probably exists because there's such variation in the way things occur in Hopatcong. It probably does exist. So I was just curious as to what Hopatcong's definition of a subjective standard is.
Yeah, so you're clearly trying to blame Hopatcong for the standard, but the standard.
No, you used the term.
How about could I please answer your question?
Please finish. Yes.
The standard is from a state statute. It has nothing to do with the borough.
So the subjective standard that you referenced is part of a state statute?
Yes, word for word.
John,
do you know what that statute number
may I
is?
interject, John? John, this is Steve McNally. Can I talk to what the standard is?
Sure.
I think the statute that you're referencing was cited in the letter that I sent to Ms. Egan, which is NJSA 40:49-6. And it states that the municipality shall mail a notice of a change like this to, quote, every person whose lands may be affected by the ordinance or any assessment which may be made in pursuance thereof, okay? And what you're articulating is that that creates a subjective obligation on the part of the town to identify who may be in this group of people who, quote, may be affected, right? And someone made a determination that the only party that may be affected was Tomlinson directly across Riggs Lane. What I hope you're hearing is that the group of people that I've identified that I represent, and maybe many more because you haven't done your title search yet, assert that they are being adversely affected. And I would argue that within the definition of that standard, even though you say it's subjective, the language may be affected really poses an obligation on the part of the township to at least be as broad as possible in including those that might have an interest affected by this, whether or not adverse. The town isn't identifying who is adversely affected, but simply who may be affected. And I'd also point out that the ordinance itself says that it has to be mailed to every person whose land may be affected by this ordinance, which, and it says as far as that may be ascertained. Okay, so I don't think you fully ascertain that because you don't have your title search, but I just point out that the ordinance itself tracks the state language.
Agreed.
So I think for me, it still comes down to the fact of does the public have access around the vacation? And
Mr. Schindler, if you're gonna, maybe you want to close to the public if you're gonna begin to discuss it among the council.
no, I was just making a point. That's all.
I do have a question that I actually want to bring it up during public, and it's to a few property owners that are online. Tomlinson, 10 Oneida, that is Lakefront, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they're lakefront.
And that Lakefront is directly across from the section that we're vacating.
X2.
Okay. The Hattons, they're on Oneida too. I don't have the number in front of me, but they are not lakefront, correct?
That's correct.
So their property is contiguous with Riggs Lane, but it's up about 75 feet from where we're vacating.
There's actually two.
Okay, I'm assuming I am correct.
Hold
what
on.
I'm trying to
Tom,
establish in my own head is why the Tomlinsons got a letter and why some other people didn't. And I understand that, being the Tomlinsons are directly across from the section we're vacating. Nobody else is.
Mrs. Hatton's property is adjacent to the upper lot that they're looking for the 10-foot vacation for the septic.
Well, I don't see how it can be, because the lot they're looking to vacate for is on the other side of Riggs.
There's an upper lot and a lower lot, and the ordinance says that they're looking for a 10-foot buffer for the septic, which is up top. Then there's the piece of Oneida, which used to be the public road that got vacated. And then there's the lower piece where the house is going, that they're looking for the 8-foot by, I don't know how many feet long, maybe 50 feet or something. It's hard to tell from the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Where we at, Ron?
You're muted, Ron.
Hello. To be clear, my mom's lot is directly across from the section of Oneida that was vacated without notice.
We're not voting on vacating Oneida. That's already been done. We're voting on.
Right, but it's relevant to this because it was done to facilitate these people building their house. So, and the section of Riggs that they're talking about is only about 40 feet from her property at tops.
We have more public, Ron?
I don't see any, Mayor.
That's me.
Oh, okay. Who is me?
My question wasn't answered.
Sarah.
Mara.
Okay.
My question wasn't answered before as to why they don't have a right for adverse possession of the right-of-way.
The issue of adverse possession isn't before the council, and adverse possession is not effective against government.
The people own the right-of-way. The people own the land in Hopatcong that belongs to the borough, because the people are the borough. You may have the right to do certain things with the borough land, but when there's people who are saying that it's causing them problems and you don't take the time to research the problems, then you're part of the problem and not part of the solution. Thank you.
More public, Ron?
I don't see any, Mayor. Nope. Well, Peter?
Yes, good day. My name is Peter Takforian. I live at 409er on the water. And I also own the upper lot that is a private road for the homes at 2, 4, 6, and 8 Oneida. And I'd like to just say that this sounds exactly like a replay of when Carl Martin wanted to build a home on that property in 2009. People came out of the woodwork against it. In addition, at the town meetings, I don't remember her name, she was an elderly woman who's no longer with us, came down and made all these accusations that those 3 or 4 6x6 deteriorating pieces of wood that people call steps were in fact on the quote Riggs Lane access. At the hearing, Mr. Martin told the group that when his machines were there, not only would he help elevate the area, he would put in new steps for people. That was not good enough. As a result of this, he was denied his building permit. Eventually, he went bankrupt. Prior to going bankrupt, he went back to the council with an updated survey, which clearly showed that approximately 3 feet of those wooden, quote, steps were in fact on his property. Now, I don't have any objection to anyone building anything. I do have 2 concerns. Number 1, access to the section of Oneida that my house, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are on, can only now be accessed through our private road, which was set up in a 1956 deed. So quite frankly, that Riggs area, the dock, and the access, I deem as a public hazard and a problem for all of us as taxpayers. Originally, if you go back to the original deeds, back into the 1890s, that was supposed to be a road. That road never came to fruition, and subsequently, it's been this, quote, access to a dock. Now, when I first moved in and received an outrageous estimate of what my tax costs were, I was told that that was, quote, an untaxed structure. So as a taxpayer, as a member of the Hopatcong community, I don't understand the logic of trying to deny people 8 feet out of 35 feet and only in a small section to put a septic in. And please remember, these were rules that were promulgated in 2012. Prior to 2012, as in when Mr. Martin was building or trying to build, he would have had total access. So we're sitting here arguing over the possibility of an elderly person not having access to a dock that shouldn't be there, a beach that's non-existent, and quite frankly, a passageway that is in fact extremely dangerous. So I would like to say that I think it's time that we all grow up and understand that if we want to live in a modern world where people want to improve their surroundings, it's time for this nonsense to really let go.
More public, Ron?
That's all I see, Mike.
Well, if that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to bring it back to council.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
This is to bring it back, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
I'd like to introduce a motion to table this. I've heard unsure and unclear way too many times for my liking. I think the title search needs to be done and completed, and I think that we need to really figure out what the meets and bounds of Riggs Lane is and where this 8 and 11 feet are going to come in for these people so that they understand and know that their ingress and egress on Riggs Lane is not going to block their access to the lake. Forget the dock, forget the steps, forget all that stuff. It's not going to block their access to their deeded lake rights.
With all due respect, I previously Rich Schindler made a motion on this ordinance, and I seconded it. And as I'm understanding all the conversation, what this ordinance is vacating does not hinder anybody's access. I've been there, like I said, 4 times. And the title search, the full title search, is more to establish who has rights to the property, who does not, as far as regarding a beach, a dock, and what the borough's future actions may be on the remainder.
Well, and that's fine, I understand that, but I don't think that it's fair that we grant this partial vacation without being sure about the meets and bounds of Riggs to make sure that we're not absolutely impeding. Because if Peter says that 3 feet of that is actually on 8 Oneida, then that impedes those 3 feet is now, it's not 8 feet, now it's actually 11 feet over their steps. Now, John, I know you were there yesterday. There's rock. You cannot ingress or egress down Riggs Lane on that rock. Unless
Well, I disagree. I hike all over North Jersey, and there are hiking trails that are much more difficult.
I understand that, but if we're going to...
steps that we refer
I would
to
like to
are a
see you do
hindrance.
that.
I agree with
So
you.
we
I
respectfully
agree the
disagree.
steps need to go. And I agree that maybe the town takes the steps out and puts a nice little path down there for them with grass and dirt, and that's fine. Take away that. But I'm not worried. If you're moving the 3 feet over, like Peter said, you are absolutely impeding on their ingress and egress to Riggs Lane. You're absolutely impeding on their access. You're not going to be able, you're going to be jumping over rocks, a huge 5-foot rock to get down and then back up Riggs Lane. Or you're going to end up being on Mrs. Hatton's property to access
I
Riggs.
respectfully disagree, and unless Rich removes his motion, my second stands.
I make a motion to table it.
Come on, Dawn.
Jen, just for a note of reference, there is a survey that goes with this, and it was in our packet.
I saw it.
Yeah,
but again, It doesn't, I want to see how far out Riggs goes, because now if Peter is saying that it's 3 feet additional toward Mrs. Hatton's property, then the 35 feet goes out even more, and that means that their steps are gone, Rich. Their pathway down is gone. I was there yesterday. Their pathway is gone. So
all due respect to Mr. Kevorkian, but I'm actually looking at the survey. And as in land use or whatever, that's what we go by. We go by the surveys. So, and you know, 35 feet is really wide.
Not if it's rocks, though, Rich. Not if it's, there's a reason the topography that Oneida doesn't go through. It's because it's rocks. It's giant rocks.
Yes, it's the same reason that Oneida was never blasted through for road.
What is the big loss if we wait until the next meeting in anticipation of this title search, clear up all of these questions about the dock and the beach and Riggs Lane, so everyone could be on a cohesive page together? What's the loss? To just wait, hold on, to just
agree with you.
Wait on these documents to come through, all the review, all the research, the title search to come back in. What are we losing to wait a couple of weeks? And then that's not a rhetorical question.
I agree, John.
John, you're muted. Or your mic isn't working. It doesn't show muting. Speaking from the real estate committee, I will say that this went on for a very long time.
Yeah,
I'm
my
sorry,
battery's dying, Rich. Dawn, to answer your question, it's the council's prerogative, but the two issues are really unrelated. The issue of the title search and who has access and what's going to happen to the beach or the dock or the access versus this issue, the two are unrelated. The title search is not going to reveal anything that's going to affect the borough's ability to reduce a right-of-way from 35 to 27 or 24 feet.
How about permanent markers? How about we mark out Riggs Lane and we mark out there in a more permanent way so that we can see where the actual meets and bounds are and how it's going to affect their ingress and egress, rather than doing it on, I mean, you're referring to this map, the survey here that we got?
Yes.
Riggs Lane is not a straight line. So to me, this means nothing. Riggs is not a straight line.
Well, but the only thing I'll say about that is the borough engineer did review the meets and bounds description, and I made sure that he told me that the meets and bounds description, which is, survey accurate, was consistent with that drawing.
Okay. Does it show topography on here? Because I don't see all the rocks that are actually exist at this point in Riggs Lane at all. So my whole thing is, not that I don't care about the dock and I don't care about the steps. Those are all different issues. My feeling is that it's not clear enough to me where the meets and bounds are of where the markings are for either Riggs and this partial vacation. It's not clear enough to me. And I agree with Dawn that I don't think that there would be, I don't understand what the big deal is to wait until August 5th, till we get maybe a clearer picture of how much vacation this is.
Well, when you say how much vacation, I mean, what do you actually mean? Because the bottom line is it's 35 feet. It's 35 feet, okay? And the bottom line is part of this vacation is 8 feet taken away, all right? It isn't like they're building their house all the way 8 feet. It's
I understand what it is, Rich. I understand.
So, right. Oh, okay, so.
I want to see where the markers are that are this partial vacation. And now I've gone twice in 3 days to go see it. And both times the markers were in two different spots. So I would like to see.
Who put the markers up?
I don't know who put the marker. I'm guessing the engineer or whoever did this survey.
That's an assumption. I don't know.
That is an assumption.
No, yeah. Those are snowplow markers. I don't think they mean anything, quite frankly.
Wow. I would like to see how much of Riggs it takes up. That's what I would like to see.
I did a walk down there myself today. And so I do agree with, I think it was Peter, the dock and the steps, they're a liability that I don't think Hopatcong should take on, being good stewards of taxpayers' money that we're trying to be. That has to be dealt with. But walking down there, it is not a straight line, and there is a rock. I don't want to call it a cliff. What do you call it? A rock outcropping?
Like a ledge.
Yeah, ledge. So I don't know. Maybe the engineer could take us down with his measuring wheel and show me.
Mm-hmm.
Show me what it's going to look like. And again, 2 weeks, no one's saying yes and no one's saying no. We're just asking to explore every single angle So everyone can be at peace with this, even if the answer is no. Our residents know that we explored every angle of this because we do care and we want to be on the same page. Sometimes the answer is no, and that's disappointing. Sometimes the answer is yes, and that's great. But I think to make an informed decision, I think we need to see with our eyes and walk it with our feet. So Jennifer, I'll second you.
Thanks, Dawn.
So, Mayor, the motion is now on the floor to be voted on to table. If it's tabled, then it goes to the next meeting. If the motion to table does not carry, then it comes back to the motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, on the motion to table, discussion's over. Call the roll, Val.
Hopatcong, this is to table.
I'm going to say no. Because
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes, table.
Mr. Schindler,
No.
Mr. Young,
Will all these surveys or title searches be done in 2 weeks?
I can't say for sure. The odds are maybe a little against it, given things are a little slow right now.
No.
But there's a possibility that the title search could be done in the next 2 weeks.
It was ordered 3 days ago, and depending on how far back they have to go, and
And it's
depending on
actually 3 weeks. August 5th is 3 weeks from today, not 2 weeks.
so it's possible.
John, do we gain anything by it? Other than the knowledge that they have access to a dock?
In my opinion, legally, I don't think you gain anything with respect to the partial vacations. There may be some other practical knowledge that you gain. That's the council's prerogative. But from a legal perspective, I don't see what you gain.
Maybe not the title search, but the engineer in 3 weeks could maybe take us down there and show us, like Dawn was saying.
No, I'm being very respectful of your prerogative. Of course, there's practical things you could learn. Those are council considerations. But you know, when you vacate something, you're not transferring property rights. You're only vacating the right that you had in it.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, Mayor, the motion to table was voted down, so that then has the motion to approve the ordinance as next up.
On the motion to approve the ordinance, call the roll.
Mr. Hopatcong,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
No.
Ms. Roberts,
No.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
That motion's carried. All right. Thank you for all your input. I will add my 2 cents. I've been sitting here quiet, letting the council do their work. But I would request that, Ron, that we get our engineering firm to immediately and prioritize it, come in and at the very least flag the meets and bounds, including the outcrop. And I would say that since we don't write our ordinances in granite, we never will. If we really see it's a problem, I'll bring it back to the council and say, based on further information, we can readjust how we look. But I think we can meet the best of both worlds by doing that, and we could prioritize that. And I think that would satisfy Jennifer's concern and Dawn's to make sure we clearly understand what we're doing and do it by way of flag. So what I'm asking is that we actually not, it's not so important, but we should do the entire Riggs Lane. And then actually when we delineate Riggs Lane, I would like permanent markers. And when you put them in, if someone removes them, it's a felony. I know there's a history of markers being moved in that area, as Jen points out. That's a perfect example. I don't know who they are. And then I would like to request that we actually flag the the vacated area in reference to the actual right-of-way so that we actually see a visual of the affected area. Do you think that's reasonable?
You, Mike, Mayor, I can certainly call our engineering firm and get their surveying group out there. If I understand it right, we want to survey Riggs Road to get the perimeter of Riggs to understand that area. And we want to understand the ways and means of the vacation of the two areas affected by this ordinance.
And I want it clearly flagged, so when we go there, we'll see a set of flags that shows the vacated area in respect to the actual right-of-way. So that area will have a few more flags. I'll talk to our, could you order that, and actually tomorrow would be fine.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. And I think that would satisfy everybody concerned. And like I say, if we see that we actually caused harm by doing this, I would report back to council and say that we need to correct it, or I would report back and say we've satisfied all our concerns, but we can still move forward. Is that acceptable?
Yes, Mike, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
So that's where we are. And again, we do not write our ordinance in granite, never will. And so if we see that we goofed up, we can fix it. But the trick is to recognize the fact that we're doing the appropriate, and the clear issue on this ordinance is the vacation. The other issue will show up. I want us to take our time on that and do it right. But the actual vacation of an 8-foot section, I want to show that effect. Okay, I've said my 2 cents worth. All right, resolutions. Resolution 2020-102, budget amendment to add grant revenue.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Wait, where are we? I thought we were on purchasing policy. Oh,
Budget
I'm sorry.
amendment.
I got
You
it.
know what?
I got it. I'm sorry. Yes. I apologize.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-103, amendment to the purchasing policy. Ron, could you explain that?
Yes, it's a tad bit out of order, but every 3 years, the state, under local public contracts law, looks at bid thresholds, contract, fair labor, wages, those types of things. And every 3 years, they make a recommendation to all the boroughs and counties under that law what their recommended bid thresholds are. The resolution to take our threshold to 44,000 and our quote threshold to 6,600. Quote threshold is merely a percentage of your bid threshold. So with the recommendation to take the bid threshold, I've also amended our purchasing policy to reflect that.
Thank you. On that, call the roll, please.
I need a motion.
I'll motion it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Related to that is 2020-104, raising the purchasing bid threshold.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-105, Marlena Farina to clerk 2.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hoppercamp,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Roberts,
Abstain.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Thank you. Old business?
I did have a request, and it might be done. I haven't been on there lately, but I've talked to a few people in the last few weeks, and one of the topics of conversation was the solar project. And what my request is, can we have that flyover video and the descriptions of some of the data that you read somehow online on our website?
Yes, we're working on that, but that flyover file you saw is like 4 gigabytes, and we're having a problem with our current technology. That, by the way, that's why we're gonna look into another service provider for our website, because right now we have serious limitations. So if I can get it down lower, yes.
Okay, that's
actually, it's easier to put it on Facebook than it is on our website.
Is it on our Facebook anywhere?
Yeah, I put it on Facebook, and I'm going to ask. I'll ask that we put it on the Back on Happenings Facebook also.
Okay, that would be good.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a very, very large file. Okay. Oh, any more old business? New business? And we get to the mayor's comments, which I've already.
Mayor, you asked me to bring up under new business the issue of one of the homes that's been very well put back together and rehabbed. The contractor came in and wanted to redo the front wall down, and now he's got to replace it. It is in our right of way. It's
yes, he needs council approval.
Yes, right. We need council approval for that. It's Pebble Beach Road. Contractor's doing a phenomenal job with that. The people that bought the house are very anxious to close, but this is stopping them from getting the certificate of occupancy to that closing. And Mr. Urson, you correct me if I'm wrong, I need a resolution to do this. I didn't know how the Borough Council wanted to handle that today or not.
You would need a resolution to grant approval for an encroachment in a right-of-way.
Yes.
But it really should be on the agenda.
Okay, so then we'll advertise that for the next meeting, Ron. That's simple.
Okay.
Sorry.
I thought so.
No, that's okay. Hey, listen,
huh?
we have to address it.
I'll call the contractor and let him know that it's 3 weeks, and that's just the world we're in. I get it.
Yep.
Okay. That's all. I have.
Are we on new business?
Now we are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We had spoken earlier in the week, Mike, and I wanted to bring back up the septic ordinance, just to remind you.
Yes, thank you very much. John, would you dust that off? With the pandemic and everything else we've been doing.
Been put on the back burner, yeah.
Yeah, I actually, Valerie had some valuable input on that, because Valerie was involved in another town where they did it. So I believe within the next meeting or two, give us a little time to make sure we do it right for our town. Yeah, I would very much think we probably should do that in the interest of our environment and the lake.
Absolutely, and the lake, yeah. The second thing I wanted to bring up was, I don't know how much everybody is on Facebook, but there is a resident of town who has gotten a petition for a dog park going, and I think he's got I think it might be over 500 signatures.
Well, it would be good if they called me about that. Because
all right. He just had a baby, so I'll reach out to him, and his wife just had a baby, and he's all baby right now. So I'll let him know to give you a ring. He's picked a nice spot, I think anyway. But I think it's worth looking into.
I do have a team. I do have a team working on that.
Oh, okay, great. But maybe we can link them up, because he's really
sure.
It really makes a lot of sense to me.
Sure.
The other thing is that since we are right now on Zoom, I wanted to introduce the idea of attaching the ordinances and resolutions to the agendas that we post online. I think it would make people, I think it speaks to our transparency as a council. I think that it would be, I just think it would be very transparent of us. I know that every other town around here, when I go on their websites and I look for an agenda, that agenda has every ordinance, maybe not the full introduced ordinances, but it has all the resolutions and the ordinances when they're up for a final vote. They're attached. Jefferson, Sparta, Randolph, Landing, Roxbury, they all have all of their stuff attached. And I know that we can't put our bill list on there because until it's approved, But I think it just would speak to our transparency as a council for our residents.
Well,
That's all I have.
we'll talk about that, Val, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, I just want to let you know the survey has been ordered.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm serious about this.
No, I know, but that
it's the
was-
right thing to do.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I do tend to get serious about issues from time to time. All right, we're done with new business. Now you have to listen to me for a couple of minutes, I promise. Like I said before, first I want to tell people how I really regret having to talk about Estelle Klein. She was a friend, a dedicated woman who spent years working for the town. Actually, the first animal haven was Estelle. She loved animals, especially dogs, to a fault. And I can tell you stories about that. And anybody been around with Estelle could tell you that she didn't even break the law to help a dog, and she didn't care about people. She cared more about that dog. So, but anyhow, I really miss her. As we all get older, last time I saw her, she had a little trouble recognizing me. You'll see on the front of Town Hall, the banners up there. That's in the flag at half-mast. That's in honor of one of our previous councilwomen, and we'll stay there probably till next week. And so I really even get sad talking about it. We have a lot of good memories, and those are the ones that I'd rather keep. And I can tell you about rescuing a duck out of her bathroom. That baby duck got behind the wall. We had a hell of a time getting him out of there. But we had a lot of adventures. She was a good woman that loved animals to a fault. The Aeration Project, like I say, we have 20,000 linear feet of airline installed. We have to order another 5,000 feet. They're building the shelter and digging the footing for it as we speak. And there'll be a 2-inch main supply lane, airline supply line that goes down to the lake to a distribution box. I want to have it completed by the end of next week and making bubbles. It's very important, a very important piece of the puzzle. I have asked for federal aid for our lake, specifically Creston Cove, specifically the HABs. We're not done yet. There's some biological methodology that I have approved by Rutgers Department of Biology that I'd like to introduce that guarantees no HABs in Creston Cove. It's current technology. Evidently, New Jersey is a little bit behind on that. And every opportunity I get, I will criticize our DEP because I don't think they're doing a good job, and I don't think they support us like they should. But I'm working on that too. And like I say, I'm in, like I said before in review, I'm talking now with some people. I'll be talking to the Highlands Coalition, the Sierra Club, and other so-called environmental proponents to help get support for the trichoid grass carp. It's a natural solution. If anybody hasn't noticed, the weeds in our lake can kill you. It happened last year and it happened this year. And if I go back far enough, I can give you more examples, but I prefer not to. So we're going to look at more efficient ways, getting more tools to manage them, which includes looking at different types of weed harvesters. We've had the same weed harvesters for 20 or 30 years. No one's ever improved them. And just lately we saw they don't work too good in some occasions. So we need to relook at that technology. Cub Pack 88, thanks a lot. They're great. Our kids are great. They're out there picking up garbage and cleaning up our town. And when we have town cleanup, they're also there. So I really appreciate that. And I always make the point about our scouts. Our scouts don't ask our municipality for anything. But when we need help, they're there. They show up. They work. Our Eagle Scouts are phenomenal. And our Cub Scouts are just as great. I love them to death. And we need to keep recognizing them. And however we can support them, I believe that we should. So if you need some flags 4, 5, 6 times a year, I think you need to think about that. And that helps the Scouts. The lake condition as we see it is not good. I'm having pictures taken every day of Creston Cove, and though I'm a little prejudiced to that because it is the worst cove on the lake. And we did I do have some pictures of blue-green algae. Hopefully I can get the air running before that gets out of control. But, you know, these are delicate times with the heat and the rain as we have it. So this is the time when we get whacked pretty good. I'm working with the governor's office almost daily with the COVID issues. Please, please, please wear your mask if you're closer than 6 feet. I'm begging you, please do it. I'm struggling with playground and sports. The governor's office cannot give me a clear answer on our basketball courts or any town-sponsored sports that come under the town's jurisdiction. In the respect, they say if you're closer than 6 feet, wear a mask. Department of Health says if you're doing anything strenuous, don't wear a mask. So there are really conflicting stories. I have a conference call tomorrow with the governor's office where every mayor of every town gets to voice their concerns, and I certainly will voice that. I just want some clarification. But, you know, this thing is rebounding. Hopatcong has been doing very well with our numbers, if there's such a thing as doing well with people getting sick. Our numbers have been fairly stable. They were 127 for quite a while, and then they went to 128 and 130, and we're at 134. It's kind of there for a couple of days. But my point is, this is dangerous stuff, folks. I don't have anything to do with the schools that making their decisions, but I'll tell you, we really have to be careful with our kids, and we have to protect them as much as possible. As much as I'd love to open our playground equipment, I really, in good conscience, can't. I can't. We don't have the staff to disinfect it. It's old. It's not really good. That's why you saw tonight there's an ordinance to replace most of it. The $35,000 for the little kids, they're the ones we need to protect the most. They're the most vulnerable. You put them out there to play, and in doing that, we say, we're okay, we're protecting you, when in fact, if we let them do that in an area in question, we're not protecting them. And so I take that real serious too. I would never forgive myself if I did something that made someone get sick and I knew I could prevent it. And so that's where we all have to be with this in our town. I can only speak for our town and our people. I can't speak for other towns and don't want to. But we have to show that we're responsible and just please wear your mask. It's as simple as that. And so everything I'm hearing, and this has no political lines or anything like that, it's health and it's people. And in this case, it's our children, which I will protect to a fault and will continue to do that. So if someone complains about our playground not being open and the basketball nets being up, that's because it's unsupervised. Supervised sports such as Little League and soccer that have someone there, they take your temperature, there's a protocol. We hang up the basketball net, there's no protocol. We're not taking your temperature. Are you going to play? Damn right you're going to play. Them kids are competitive and I don't blame them. But we can't be complicit with endangering their health, and we won't be. So I just want to make sure everyone understands the clarity that I want to have on this and the responsibility that our town and our governing body has to maintain this stance in the welfare of our people. So I think I said it all. Hopefully we can all stay safe, and that's all I have to say, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Thank you.